Awesome. Yeah. So welcome everybody this evening. It's been super fun to put this slideshow together because I'm accessing my favorite place. I've spent so much time at Whitecap. I'll get to the introduction of who I am in a little bit here, but this photo just in front of you sets the stage really nicely of just the landscape we can kind of start thinking about this evening. So McGillivray Pass, which is where Whitecap is located, it's on the traditional territory of the Naquaqua, the Shelaw, and the Lillooet First Nations. So some of the photos I'm going to be sharing tonight are from this area, and we just really respect and honor the Indigenous land that we operate on. And we're also always constantly going through different territories, etc. As a person who travels in the mountains quite a bit, I've been using native.ca, and that just gives me a really good indication of whose territory I am traveling on. And yeah, here's me in my natural habitat. Let's go back there. So I'm an ACMG hiking guide. If you're not familiar with ACMG.
Sorry, Leah, really quick. I don't think if you change slides, I haven't seen it change on this end.
Okay. We will be 1 second here. I'm just going to we're going to share this one more time. Okay, my apologies about that. So while I do this, if you guys want to just go in the chat box and just comment where you're from, and also just your experience in the backcountry. If you're into hiking, if you're in mountain running, sky running, whatever it is for you, I'm just kind of curious about that too. How are we now there? Can you see my screen now? We're good on the screen?
Sorry, I was muted there. Yeah, we're good now.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so here is me and my natural habitat. I'm an ACMG hiking guide. If you're not familiar with the ACMG is an organization, so it includes mountain guides, rock guides, ski guides, and then also hiking guides as well. And the hiking guide program is very designed for navigation and just traveling safely throughout the summer months. And I've been a hiking guide for almost 10 years. And I got into it because my friend said she was working for Outward Bound, and I was like, oh, that sounds like an interesting job. And that was kind of a gateway into this whole realm of hiking guiding. And this is a job that I thought, I'm like, oh, I'll do it for a little bit, but then actually doing it, my love for nature really developed through this job. And I'm really excited tonight to show you and share with you some of the stuff that I've learned. So in the summer, I'm the program director at Whitecap Alpine, just based outside of Pemberton. And that's where a lot of the photos in the slideshow will be from. And I've walked that landscape so much, and I've just picked up so many clues from being in that alpine environment very consistently. And then also in the winter, I spend a lot of time, I'm actually a professional skier. I've done a lot of films and videos, etc., with Patagonia and Solomon. Those are my two sponsors in the winter. So I've spent so much time just traveling around the mountains. So if you've got questions about that in the Q&A, which we'll do at the end, I'm happy to go over that as well. And just some of my main love for the backcountry is these alpine flowers. And today I'm going to share with you why moss campion is actually my favorite alpine flower. So tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to go over what to pack, We're going to go over weather. We're going to dive in a little bit into bear safety. And then I'm also going to share some really cool natural ID tricks with you. And these are little things as mountain people that you can kind of pick up on, and they will be clues to your environment. And I'm just going to pop in here too. I want to see, okay, we've got Seattle, and oh, someone's already loving the Moss Campion from Whistler and from Nelson. Okay, great. Sounds like a lot of really good people who love nature and also really are in spots that have a lot of good nature too. So what to pack? This might be review for some of you, but I love just to go over things because I actually don't know where people are at. And I find that it's nice sometimes there's new technology and stuff coming out. Sorry, my mouse is a little jumpy. Yeah, so just stuff, what to pack. I know you guys are mostly running or hiking in the summertime, and this is kind of the bare bones of what I put in my pack. So I always have an inReach. I have bear spray and a horn. You can actually get little mini horns. I love stingers just for high energy, and I have some kind of nutrition. I always pack like a chocolate and like high dense, high protein things. And noon is really good for hydration, and I always keep spare noons or just little package of things in my first aid kit too, as the bonk like backup. And hat, I always bring a puffy as well, and fire starter and ski straps. And I'm going to share with you here on this next slide, Adventure Smart. In a past life, I actually used to work for Search and Rescue and their PR department through Adventure Smart. And this was all about getting people outdoors and doing it safely. And if you go onto the Adventure Smart website, this is actually from there. They have every single sport, and they have specific packing lists for that sport. So sometimes when I'm packing, I actually just go to the Adventure Smart packing list, and I go through and I just make sure that everything is in my backpack for that specific sport. And it just really helps me. I know like that a lot of times you have a lot of stuff going on in your life, that lists are actually like the 7 habits of highly effective people. One of them is creating lists. So I just find for any trip, if it's hiking, skiing, whatever, I just go onto this website and I can actually just like go be like, okay, flashlight is in my pack, fire kit. And then this, like when I go to the trailhead or etc., I know I've just been through this mental checklist. And this is also really great for screenshotting for people that you want to go on trips with too. You can be like, okay, we're meeting at the trailhead. Make sure you have all these things in your pack. Just so then everybody is showing up on the same page. And a lot of times these lists will have stuff that you can kind of maybe not take or take a different thing. You can kind of create your own list based on this. I also know a lot of ski guides who have spreadsheets, like Excel spreadsheets. And within that, they've measured out every single little thing. And that this is they're like, okay, this is the most efficient way to pack my pack. And then when they go on a trip, they go through that spreadsheet and they check it off. And if they find something new that's lighter, they'll put it into the spreadsheet. And then it's just very much this system of going out on your adventure. And you'll never get to a hut or a camping spot or a trailhead and forget something, but if you go through these lists. So some of my personal favorites, I always travel with an inReach now. So there's a lot of new products hitting the market. There's inReaches I've just used them for quite a long time. So it's kind of my go-to, and the mini is super mini. So I know we're all conscious about weight when we're going into the backcountry. The inReach will connect to your phone, and it's just a nice way, especially if you get in an accident, you can have it handy, or the older ones I would suggest putting in a case, like a little Pelican case or something, because they do have a sliding mechanism that goes off. So this being said, last week I was on a ski trip in the backcountry, and the lodge that I was at got a call or like an email call through Wi-Fi because one of the inReaches in our group had gone off. and it literally just switched off and on in someone's backpack, and that created the SOS call. So just really know your product. These new InReach ones are really good. I always put them in a case in my backpack. I know some people will hook them to their backpack if they're alone, etc., and then it's really accessible if they need to press the SOS button. The next thing, sun protection in the summertime is so huge. And because we're in those high alpine environments, it's really crazy how much radiation and just like the sun is so much more intense. So this is actually a sunscreen. I guided a dermatologist actually, and we were just chatting about sunscreen one day. And this is an awesome sunscreen because it's a powder, so it doesn't fully absorb into your skin. And it's easy to put on. If you're like trying to save a super amount of weight, you could unscrew it and take just the powder and put it in a tinier container too. And that it just helps so you don't sweat it off, and you can just reapply it super easily. Dryer lint is just this one. I know like fire starters, everybody has their own way of doing this. I'll share a story later on just about getting super soaked, and fire starter is so crucial. And something that's super light and we throw away all the time is dryer lint. So just rolling that up, I roll it up and I usually put it like a little bit of wax or something like that, or bring a little tiny candle, and I just create my own little fire kit. And that's as simple as, yeah, doing that. Another thing that I really love for the summertime is the Patagonia Sunshade hoodie. And this is just, you can put it over your head. I've now learned how to protect myself in the Alpine from the sun. And if I have a hat and I can use this hood, and I can create basically like either a bug screen, or I can create like a full on like UV protection around my face. And just the longer that you're out there, sun exposure is just a really huge thing, and to be conscious of that whenever you're traveling up high. So a few of my other favorites here are, I love this Petzl headlamp. And this Petzl headlamp is super cool because it can accept batteries. So this is a trick for headlamps. If you have batteries, flip them in the opposite way that they're supposed to go. And then when you need to use your headlamp, you can put them in the correct way, and then your headlamp will never turn off. You'll never lose your battery life from it randomly turning on or off in your backpack. So that's just a really good tip that I learned from another guide. And I really like this Petzl headlamp because it has a little tiny battery that you can charge with a USB as well. So if you have a solar power, if you're trying to do maybe like a couple day trip, or you bring like a battery pack to charge, and it's super, super bright, and it's relatively inexpensive. And yeah, just a great bright headlamp for all those times when you might need it. And there's been so many times where I've had a bad headlamp and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get back from this trip and I'm going to buy a better headlamp. And finally I did that. And now my friends are like, okay, you go first. So tested and true. This one is a really good one. So water treatment is, I've sampled the whole gamut. Water treatment is super important in the Alpine. This is a true story. On my hiking guide exam, there was 2 Alpine lakes, one up here and one bottom here, and the bottom one we were camping. And we had a great discussion of if we should treat the water. And basically any still water it's not running, you want to have the precaution of treating the water. And we had this great discussion. We're like, okay, this lake is then feeding into this little creek and then into the second lake. And we're like, we don't think we need to treat this water. And so we camped there, etc. And then later on, I went for like a little hike just to kind of see for the next day of my exam of what we were going to go to the next day. And I go up and there was a dead squirrel at the base of the creek going into the second lake. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was like, for me, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to say anything because we had this great discussion, but I'm like, I'm going to treat the water at my next camp because it just really exposed me to, you never know. You can take your best guess, but you just never know what's in the water. And just from traveling a lot in alpine environments, I've actually had some stomach issues, and now I'm like, okay, I just treat the water. And these are quite small. So once again, if you're worried about weight, you can like compress them and put them in your own bottles. I've tested the whole gamut, and some taste like bleach and they're like absolutely disgusting. Pristine just takes a little tiny bit like chlorine, but it's not bad. So out of all of them that I've sampled, this is for sure my favorite one. Gloves are always something in alpine environments. It can change super fast. And I really like these black diamond gloves. They're like a fingered glove, so you can just peel them off, and then you put the windscreen over, and it's just a really light, durable glove. So highly suggest these ones for any kind of backcountry trip you're gonna do. And ski straps, these are my all-time favorite things. So you can put them on wherever you want. I usually roll with around 4 ski straps because I find out of any predicament, you can really make something happen. If you need to splint someone's leg, if you need to, what else have I done in the winter? I've made a ski basket with a pull strap. I've also used it to on a backcountry road after a hiking trip. We had a muffler that hit something, and then we got under there and we put 4 ski straps, and we made the muffler stay up for the rest of the drive. So these are just such an essential tool. And here you can see I used this one for the sole of a shoe that came off, and this poor woman, she said it wasn't that bad, but she walked around like this for definitely like 20, I think it was 20 kilometers with her boot like this. And we got back and she's like, okay, it's time for new shoes. So ski straps are just so awesome. And the next image here is tarp. I know a lot of people are going super lightweight these days, depending on your setup. I think a tarp is essential. You can create it into a tent, you can create it into any kind of shelter. And I've used these several times, especially with guided groups. Here is on the left-hand side, an example of how we've used a tarp. We were hiking up a ridge line, and then all of a sudden there was a freak hailstorm, and it like fully started hailing, and we just had this tarp and we put it around a tree, and then we huddled in, and we also like covered ourselves with the tarp, and we're able just to conserve body heat by being together and not getting as wet underneath this tarp. Another few scenarios that I've used tarps, I've actually guided a group that it was, once again, we started off in the rain, and we just had to fully stop because people were getting almost about hypothermic, and we created a shelter, and then we just created a little fire to the side, and we're able to kind of keep heat going. So tarps are so essential for just getting out of the rain. And it's really, in the alpine environments, things switch around really fast. And kind of on supplies there, if you guys want to pop into the chat and just say anything that you use, I'm also like so happy to learn all these new things about what people are using and all the inventions and stuff like that. So at any point, just plop them in there, and we can totally chat about those as well. So now I'm going to move on to mountain weather. I spent a lot of time in the Alpine, and then just in the mountains in general. And once you've spent a long time, it's kind of like in your DNA. It's like when people have arthritis and they're like, oh, it's like something's coming along. And I just feel that way. Like now I can really start to tell what's going to happen in the mountains with the weather. And before I even go out, and every day also guiding, I do a big weather synopsis, so I can kind of mentally prepare myself for what's going to happen that day. And this being said, is I pack my backpack exactly the same every single time I go out, because I actually know I know things are going to happen and they can switch around really fast. But what I use a lot is a website called Windy, and this is such a great tool. So if you're planning a trip, you can plug it in there in the search bar, and then it will come up as just a forecast. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then the biggest thing you need to know about this website is if you go down and you go to the compare button, which I've highlighted at the bottom, it will take you to another page that compares all these different weather models. And this is really cool because you can start to synthesize, okay, this weather model saying this, it's saying this, or it's like, for example, all saying sunny all day, and you're like, okay, great. But a lot of the times they're conflicting. And you start to see maybe like, if we look at this weather model, like on Wednesday, there's like a mix of sun and cloud, etc. So I kind of then take kind of the mean average from a lot of these. And once you're out there a lot too, you can see which weather model is more exact. In my personal experience, Metro Blue is really a beneficial model. It's a European weather model. And this one, specifically at Whitecap last year, was really good. A fun, interesting fact, kind of weird, is during COVID, there's actually less weather data being collected. So the weather during the 2 years of COVID was all over the place. So we went more on, okay, we see this weather pattern happening, but now consistently these weather models seem to be more accurate. And Metro Blue has kind of been one of my personal Alpine favorites. And yeah, here's just a breakdown as well. And it's really cool because it will give you the temperature. And you can also move the little dot to do these searches. You can move it to the peaks you want to go to or the valleys you want to go to. So then it will give you more specific valley temperatures or alpine temperatures too. And this is just really good for forecasting your whole day in the mountains. And the other thing I really start to look at in the winter is wind. And then in the summer, I also, if I'm going up into any ridge top, I'm like, okay, what is the wind going to be at? And is there a storm moving in? Am I exposed on this ridge top, etc.? So this is just a really helpful tool. If you don't know it, I highly suggest using it, and it's really user-friendly, a great one.
Leah, that color coding that's on the wind, so it's got knots, and the color changing there. So the blue, is that sort of indicating that on the Metro Blue, is it sort of indicating like a system coming in or a wind event coming in, and then the green is sort of like the peaks, or how does that read?
Totally. Yeah. So it's peaks. It's basically a color coding system. Sometimes you'll see, I've never seen red in there because I am not in like a windy place like Squamish, but even in your town, just take a look at this. And if you live in Squamish, for example, you will see these color codings change. Okay. And then on the very bottom is millimeters of rain and precip.
Gotcha.
And that gives you also a good idea of cloud cover too. So, excellent. But yeah, great question. Please, if anybody has questions, hop on the video or also just put them in the chat, and I'm totally happy to answer them. Another really good website that I always check out too is Avalanche Canada. They have something called the Mountain Weather Forecast. And this is where if you want to start looking at systems moving in throughout the whole province, it really breaks it down, and it's in really accessible language. And sometimes it's actually kind of funny because the forecasters are like quite witty. So they'll like do really fun analogies, etc. And they'll also have these weather models that are a video, and it will kind of show you the systems moving in and out. And this is great for the 5 to 7 day forecast too. But you're just trying to paint a bigger picture. So when you're out there, you can rely on your data that you got before, and then you're also your real life data and kind of create decisions based on those. And mountain weather forecasts, I like fully really encourage you just to go through and just check out everything that they've done. It's really for winter, this is like a really awesome spot to come for your obviously your avalanche forecast, but then it really puts into kind of perspective the winds and temperatures. They just dive really deep in there too. Cool. There's a little delay in my screen, so I'm always okay. The weather can change really fast. This is not letting me go to this slide, but because it changes really fast. And this is the same day. So this is when we were in the hailstorm. This is a little tiny creek by Whitecap. So this was in the span of an hour. We came over this creek, and when we went over, we just hopped over. It was basically just like you could skip over the creek. We hiked up to the point where we are underneath this tarp. And basically we were like, okay, we're getting pretty wet. And at this point, we also did have the lodge to go back to. So we just made the decision, we're going to go back to the lodge. We hiked back down, very wet. And all of a sudden, this creek that you can see in the photo was completely a river. So we were up to our hips in this creek. And so it was basically like a flash flood. And we had to cross arms and we had to travel across this creek. But this is just another indicator of if you didn't have a lodge to go back to, just having that tarp and then having that fire starter and just creating those kind of backup plans for yourself is really important, because it can change so quick in the Alpine. But that was a pretty crazy day. It was really interesting. Another thing to kind of watch out for is just looking up and looking at your surroundings. So here are a few types of clouds. I know some people are super into weather, some people are not. So I just went to the very common denominator here. And cirrus cloud, the one here on the left-hand side, is high wispy clouds. And you can, once you see those, I always think that they're like the dancers, and they're like, oh, they're like dancing and it's good weather and everybody's happy. And then the cumulus are these like tall, puffy clouds. And yeah, they can mean good weather. And then when they get tall and really big, like a big column, I used to also forest firefight and do weather forest firefighting. And when we were doing that, we get these columns, like this huge cloud, and we'd be like, oh, that's a money cloud. That's what all the firefighters called it, because that was like the building of the lightning. And so it would have lightning strikes and start the fires, and then you'd go and you'd be there for weeks and make money. So definitely a forest firefighters thing. We don't like forest fires, but yeah, that was just when we saw these clouds in the horizon, everybody's eyes went to dollar signs, which is interesting. And then, yeah, the other thing we have here is the stratus clouds. And those are just like these low, flat blanket clouds, and they can cover an entire sky. And it's kind of like, it looks like waves or ripples. And then you just, when you're seeing those, a lot of times, even at Whitecap, we can see them come in from really far away. And you're like, okay, there's some kind of weather moving in. And Ron, who is the owner of Whitecap, he's almost about 80. He'll go outside for like 5 minutes and he'll be like, oh, rain's coming. And he just knows so well from being up there that he can look at the sky and he can feel the temperature shifts, that he's just fully dialed on what the weather's gonna do. And like, of course, he's like actually always right. So he's the best weatherman we know for sure. And another thing that we have to take into consideration here with climate change is just wildfires. And this Wildfire BC has got a really good resource, and a lot of times, so every day during hiking season, I check this just to do a forecast in my mind of where things are at. So I look at the fires, if there's any close, if there's anything of note. So for you as a recreationalist, I would highly suggest looking at this as well. And then also pairing it with your wind forecast that you see on Windy. And if you say, for example, you have a fire that's relatively close to you and you see the wind coming in, it might not be a great day to go into that area and think about shifting your plans. And then it's also another thing, if you're active in these areas, the smoke forecast and just how that affects you when you're doing exercise too. So just something that we're really having to take into consideration now too. And I'm just going to loop back someone. Christy had, which website would you like me to reiterate? And I can get back to you on that question. But we're very lucky in BC to have a lot of really good resources online. Oh, the one with for wildfires is just BC Wildfire. And you can go there. It's a really, they have an interactive map during the summer, and it will show all the active fires. And for example, there's so many times where we didn't even know that there was a fire in a certain place, and you go to the map and you can be like, oh, there's one here. In previous years being in the Alpine, I've actually seen fires from far away in a distance. And then I go back and I can look at this website and be like, okay, this fire's here. So like, in the next 2 days, if the wind shifts, we're going to get smoke in this area. So it's just really cool to use all these tools that are just at our fingertips with the internet. Okay, bears. We're all going into, like, I was in Europe this winter and they were talking about the wildlife that they have in Europe. And everybody in Europe is talking about wolves, the reintroduction of wolves. And for me, I'm like, it's such a foreign concept that you go into a place and there's no wildlife. And I think here in BC, in Canada, in the US too, we're so lucky to have wildlife and to have this sense of wilderness and wild. And just one thing is with bears, we are going into their habitat too. So I think the more you can learn about the animals and how they interact, that then you can kind of start respecting their house too. I think about this a lot when I'm hiking guiding. I'm going to share with you a bunch of really fun facts that I don't think a lot of people know unless you are super into bears or a bear biologist. And I'm so happy if you are, because I'd love to hear from you too. And just so we can kind of start this conversation off, what are the difference between grizzly bears and black bears? If you want to pop something into the chat, please do. And then I can kind of see what people know about grizzly bears and black bears. These big guys. Yeah, I found the biggest photos of them. So, and if you don't know anything, that's also totally cool, because I'll go over some stuff. So the hump, yes, Rick, that's awesome. Pointed and round ears, great. Anything else that you guys know that there's differences? Hump and a dish face, paws and claws. Oh, you guys are good. I love this. Okay, well, oh, you guys, yeah, fuzzy, cute ears and snouts for grizzly bears. Okay, you guys are totally on it. It's really great. So the difference here is I've got this really good graphic. You guys everybody is fully on this. So grizzly bears, this popped to my grizzly bear photo. This is taken in the valley at Whitecap. So this is my friend's hand, and just to showcase, we couldn't really see the claws on this one, but we definitely, by the size, we knew that it was a grizzly bear print. So grizzly bears, yeah, they've got those front claws. They're usually 5 to 10 centimeters. And that's when you're looking in the track, you definitely look for those claw marks. And then everybody in this chat was like the cute dished ears, the little rounded ears. And then the hump is like created so they can be actually excavators, and they move a lot of dirt because they're constantly digging for their food. So it's basically like a Tonka truck that then they can get a lot of power based on that hump. And black bears, they're usually smaller. They have no hump. They usually are not, they come in different colors versus black, but you see a lot of black ones as well. And then they've got that more straight profile face. And this is great. This is a great infographic to send your friends too. Just so when you're entering alpine environments, you're like, okay, grizzlies are going to be in an alpine environment. Black bears will be down lower. And black bears actually climb a lot. Grizzly bears can climb, but black bears climb to get higher, where grizzly bears actually use their height to stand on their back legs. And then that's how they get their height. And then they look around. So we'll see my really cool paw print here. And I just love seeing these because I'm like, oh, I know I'm in the grizzly bear's house, and this gives me a clue that I'm there, and I'm totally on guard. I'm like, okay, am I seeing, feeling, hearing what is happening when I see this paw print? And I know it's super fresh because the mud's not dried up, etc. It definitely gets my spidey senses up for sure. Okay, some cool things about bears. Okay, for hibernation, this is super cool. I think this is cool, at least. They don't go to the washroom, and they don't eat during hibernation, and they develop this fecal plug that they get all plugged up, and then everything goes back into their body. So they recycle it all throughout their body, and it actually creates calcium on their bones, which is really cool. And if we did this, our bodies would disintegrate basically from not moving. We would need to kind of get everything out of our systems, but bears actually get stronger with each hibernation, which is insane. And then if the bear biologists, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll take a tooth from a bear and they'll send it to a lab in the US. And the lab can actually go through that tooth and look at the calcium on that tooth. And it's exact same things as tree rings. So tree rings, you can count the rings, and that's how old a tree is. And it's the exact same thing of the hibernation rings of calcium that have developed every time they've hibernated. So that's how you get to know how old a grizzly bear exactly is versus just by sight. And they are not considered a true hibernator because they do lower their breathing, metabolic rate, and temperature, but they need to spring into action really quick. So if they've built not a great den, etc., they need to be kind of fight or flight mode. So they're never fully hibernating. Where like some squirrels, for example, you would just be like, is this thing alive? Because they're true hibernators. And they don't get to be very old. Grizzly bears would prefer not to see people ever. And they just want to do their thing, etc., and live in these areas. So the oldest one is recorded to be 36 years old. And then the average is 20 years old. And that being said, because we have a lot of interface with humans, we do not get a lot of old grizzly bears now. It's very rare that they do survive for a really long time. And they have these really cool things. So like going to kind of like the pub during the spring when people are feeling super fresh, bears actually go to these things called rub trees. And this is a great thing if you are out adventuring to be conscious of. I found a lot of these on pretty much every hike I've been on, or I'm a casual runner, but I'll just see if I see paw prints, I'll go and I'll look at all the trees around and I'll try and find one of these rub trees. And basically, this is like a dating card. So all the bears will kind of gather around this tree, and the males especially love these trees. So they'll use their paws and they'll stamp in the ground. And through their claws and their pads, a bunch of hormones will come out and they'll leave their scent in the ground, and they'll also urinate. And that kind of showcases they've been there. And then they all get up there, no matter what age they are, they use this pole to scratch, and it helps shed their hair. So if you look, a lot of these trees have sap and it will catch their fur. And this is a really, really great place to actually see grizzly bear fur. And the grizzly bear fur is like crimped, and it's usually a blonde color. So if you've never seen grizzly bear fur, definitely just keep your eyes open for these trees. They exist in way more places than you would know. And they use it as like the males will come, they'll leave their scent, and then if a female's looking for a partner, or if she's already trying to protect her cubs, she'll be like, we're getting out of here. And it's kind of this communication system. There's really, really fun and funny videos about this online. So if you check out Reb Trees, and it's so ironic too, because humans will actually go and pee on the same tree out of all the trees without even knowing. So definitely, like, if you've got 10 minutes of your time, check out Reb Trees. It's really interesting. And this is really cool because if you're in these alpine environments, like, just stop and you can start to learn all these little clues. Maybe if there has been a bear in the area, you'll see a fresh tuft of hair. And it's the times when I've seen the coolest fur, I think, within the backcountry. Okay, so some other cool bear facts here. And just like kind of some general stuff of, I know we're all in these places, and I know tonight's talk is about safety and staying safe. So just a general, never feed bears. They like their own food, and if we feed them, they become, it's not great. Let's keep this up and just let them do their thing. Travel in groups. So there's a study done by Parks quite a while ago, and there's never been a grizzly bear attack with 4 or more people in a group, 4 and less there has been grizzly bear attacks. So the more people you have in your group, the less likely you are to have that encounter. And a huge thing too is making noise. So every time you go around a blind corner, use your voice, and your voice is actually the best too. They did this really interesting study on bear bells, and the pitch of a bear bell is actually the same as a bird. So bears are like, they don't even think about it, or it's like a little bit interesting that they've never heard it before. So they're actually attracted by it. So bear bells, great just to leave them at home, use them for like reefs on your Christmas like door or something like that. Your voice is the best tool that you have to keeping yourself safe. And then just other things like keep your head on a swivel. So if you see maybe some birds circulating, there might be a corpse somewhere. And that gives you an idea of like, okay, something's dead, like bears or wolves or something, animals are going to be attracted to that. And just, you can usually smell something, you can maybe see it. So just kind of never put your earbuds in and be like, I'm checking out. Just really keeping engaged. Sorry, I'm just talking so much. Bear spray, I always keep it on my hip. I have a holster. A bear biologist that we've done an interview, she always has she carries 2 bear sprays and also 1 horn. So totally your own personal preference. The horn is like a really shocking sound. Another thing is keep dogs on leash. The amount of times that they go off and then come back with the bear with them is super dangerous. And we've been infringing on bears' habitat for quite a while here. So bears are trying to coexist with us. And a lot of times they're moving around when there's less people in the environment. So that's at dawn and dusk. So just being really conscious when you're traveling at those times that bears are also taking advantage of that opportunity when they can kind of get out there. And another thing, bears are, they have to eat 80% of the time. So they're head down and they're just going for it. So if you interrupt their dinner, they're not going to be that stoked. Okay, so and just another, when you're going into the summer months here and you're going into the Alpine, these are glacier lilies in this photo, and they're like little garlic, little scoopers. So basically they have a tuber on the bottom of them. You can pull it up. A lot of indigenous people also traditionally harvested these, but they're really good snacks for bears. So in the spring, they'll be munching on an avalanche shoots on glacier lilies. And these glacier lilies, the snow melts, and then all of a sudden you get these beautiful yellow flowers. And this is prime grizzly bear. It's like a smorgasbord of fresh veggies. So just be conscious of, the avalanche shoots, alpine meadows, and then huckleberry fields. So any food source, and also like ground squirrels, or we have a lot of marmots at Whitecap, and you can always see the grizzly bears in that zone too. Does anybody have any questions about bears? I'm happy to take them. I'm not a bear biologist. I have listened to a lot of talks because I just find it's so fascinating. We can also send over any talks that you want to. There's some really, really amazing bear biologists within the Sea to Sky area.
Leah, instead of carrying a horn, would a whistle work as a replacement for a horn to make sort of that offensive sound to maybe scare them away, or is that going to be more of an attraction for them?
I'm not totally sure on that, but the benefit of a horn is it just so loud. So bears can actually smell 14 kilometers away. So sometimes if they're smelling you, they could be quite a far away, and you need a sound that will travel that far. So a horn is like really, really, really loud.
Right.
Where whistle will just be if there's any type of wind too, it could be muffled out.
Right.
But yeah, your voice is definitely the best tool because it's different than any other pitch in nature too.
Gotcha.
Cool. Well, we'll keep moving on. I have some fun facts about nature stuff that will be really helpful for all you adventurers. So alpine flowers. I love alpine flowers. This is where I could do like a full hour talk, but you'll get my bones here. Monkey flowers, these are a wicked flower, and get to know these flowers because this is where the coolest, coldest alpine water comes from. And it's always running. So they're in little tiny trickles of alpine water. And it's super, super cool to see these because they come out and they actually look like 2 ears and like a monkey's mouth. So monkey flower will be a good one to know if you're looking for water. And the next one here, which will be moss campion, which is my favorite alpine flower. And this is more just like please be careful with this guy because a quarter size of moss campion takes 25 years to grow. And when we're hiking or doing anything in the Alpine, it only takes about 30 times in the same spot to kill this little guy. So if you've got a group of people that you're going with and you see this, skirt around it or spread out just so you limit your damage on the moss campion. And it will only produce these pink flowers if it has enough nutrients. So if it's too harsh in the Alpine, it will wait a full year or maybe a couple years. And then as soon as it's happy and fed, all of the little pink flowers will start coming out. This is a really fun one for people who live in the Sea to Sky. This is sky pilot or silky Cephalia. And it's also found in granite slopes or in the Sierras. And the really rad thing about this one is it only grows 2,000 to 2,200 meters. So as soon as you see this one, you actually know that you're at that elevation. And that's just one of those nature clues that you don't need to use your watch. You can just start tuning into the plants. Arnica, I don't know if people are familiar, but arnica is used as a muscle relaxant. So a lot of creams, etc. Has tons of other traditional uses, but just for tonight's talk, this is a good one. It's very hard to harvest to make an arnica cream, but it can be used for all your sore joints. And I have another one. Okay, so stone crop is, you'll often find it, it's like a little alpine succulent. It's so, so cute. And here I have stone crop, and this is from the Lillooet Nation. They've used this as a traditional medicine, and the translation is salmon eggs. So it looks like that, and it can be eaten all year around as well. And there's this wicked book that you can buy at the Cultural Center in Whistler or the Lillooet Nation, and it just has all the botanical uses of valley and some alpine stuff, but it's very well done and easy to read, etc. I have a plethora of books if you ever want suggestions too. I know we don't have too much time here too, but I just wanted to open up and see if anybody had any questions about safety or anything that we covered. I know is kind of a big spectrum of things as well. If you just want to introduce yourself, also cool. I know someone had to leave, so that's all good. Cool. Any questions? Okay. Well, I will, if you have a question too, I have a few more slides here so you can kind of think of them. And if you don't, Rick, thank you for your message of great talk. It was really fun to put together. It kind of got me thinking about all these beautiful alpine spots that I love to go to so much. And then, yeah, just this is from us in Whitecap of just thanks for coming, and good luck if you are participating. I know how hard it is to train for something, and hopefully on your days off, you can kind of stroll and see some of these alpine flowers and learn a few more things. But I definitely know the dedication that it takes to do a race as well. And we have a few people popping into the chat. Great info that can be applied to mountain biking and other activities. Oh, Rick climbed Logan with Ron and Lars. Oh, cool. Well, that is super cool. I'm stoked to hear that you got out with those guys. And then we just have an invitation for you guys to come explore with us. We have a discount for all the folks who are in the marathon. And we also have a trail running week, September 8th to 11th. And we also have a lot of hiking dates as well. So just, yeah, come on out with us and I can fill you in on all my plant knowledge. I think it's just really cool to learn more about the natural world and be more connected. So if you've got any questions, please send them my way. And yeah, I'm stoked to connect. And I'm just reading the comments here. Tune into this little things around us. Yeah, that's an awesome. I'm glad you got that from this talk. And the headlamp batteries. Yeah, that's the dead batteries. And yeah, if you want to come with us too, you can just send info at whitecapalpine.ca. We also will be at the marathon too, so you can talk to us there, but we'd love to fill you on some of our offerings that we have. So really, I've spent pretty much my last 4 years of life living at Whitecap, so it's a really, really special place. It's on the borderline of the Chilcotins and the Coast Mountain Range, and it's just really a special place where you can kind of diversify your ecosystems daily. So I've learned a lot from the landscape there.
Leah, in this picture, we have a sauna, is that correct?
That's a sauna, yeah.
And is that located right by the lodge, or?
No, this is an amazing hike. It's not right by the lodge, so it's usually a day hike, and we loop in the sauna. So you get this wicked alpine route in, and then you go to the sauna And it's really, really like, it seems surreal. It's a really amazing experience.
It looks surreal for sure. I haven't been, but it's on my list for sure. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a really special place, like for families and like friends, and it's so unique.
Yeah, I know lots of people who've been up, and I've been meaning to get up and haven't yet, but
Soon.
one day soon, exactly.
Totally.
It'd be great to take the family up, absolutely. So
Yeah.
great.
Awesome. And then yeah, thank you for all the comments that are coming in too. Like I said, I could share lots on plants and stuff, but I have to limit myself.
Well, Leah, thank you very much for sharing all of your knowledge and expertise and very evident passion of exploring in the mountains and safety and things. And thank you very much for sharing all of that with us. We very much appreciate it. And thank you very much to everybody who joined us here tonight. It was great to see people from all over the place here online with us, and very informative. And it certainly stoked my inner fire for getting back in the mountains as the snow recedes here again. So super excited to get back out there and see some of those alpine flowers. We've got a couple of months yet before we're going to see some of those, but it is so exciting, and to go in with a little more knowledge is awesome. So thank you for that.
No problem. Yeah. Sorry, I talked too much. I had a little cough there. So
It's all good. It's all good. One last call out for questions. And if nobody has any more questions, then I think we're ready to wrap up, Leah.
Yeah, I think that's it. And yeah, I also am Leah at whitecapalpine.ca. So if you've got more questions, you can find me over there. Or if you're on Instagram or Facebook, those questions will get to me as well.
Awesome. Amazing. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. And Leah, thank you very much for sharing your time with us and knowledge. And we're grateful. And I will end the recording now, and we'll get that up for people who were not able to make it tonight, and share that link around.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.